Hello, and welcome back to Baby Elias' stories. We now return to The Inugami Curse by Seishi Yokomizo. The Votive Handprint. November 15. A half month since Kiyo's return, and almost 1 month since Kindaichi's arrival in Nasu. The day when Inugami blood first flowed, and the day when the devil finally commenced to act. Before turning to the subject of death, however, let us first recount an incident that might have been a prelude to murder. Mr. Kindaichi, you have a guest. It was about 3 in the afternoon, having dragged his wicker chair onto the balcony as usual. Kindaichi sat lost in thought, almost nodding off, when his drowsy musing was interrupted by the maid's voice. A guest? Who is it? It's Mr. Furudate. If it's Mr. Furudate, tell him to come up. No, he's waiting for you in his car. He says he's going somewhere and would like you to accompany him, if you don't mind. Kindaichi sprang out of his chair. Then, changing from his robe into his tired kimono and hakama trousers, he thrust a bowler, crumpled beyond the recognition, over his tousled hair and rushed out the front door of the inn. A car was parked in front, and poking his head out of one of its windows was Furudate. Sorry to keep you waiting. Where are we going? Trotting up to the car, Kindaichi nonchalantly placed his foot on the running board, but then caught his breath in surprise. Furudate was not alone. Sitting in the car with him were the thick-set Take and the fox-like Tomo. Well, hello. I didn't know you two were going too. Get in, said Furudate, moving to the spare pull-down seat so Kindaichi could sit next to Tomo. The car started moving immediately. So, where are you off to together? Kindaichi asked. To Nasu Shrine. The shrine? What for? Yes, well, let me tell you about that when we get there. Perhaps concerned about the driver's presence, Furudate coughed awkwardly, avoiding the question. Take sat silently, with arms crossed, his lips pulled tight in a scowl, while Tomo kept shaking his leg incessantly, whistling a tune in the direction of the window. The vibrations from Tomo's twitching augmented the jolts of the car and made Kindaichi squirm in his seat. Nasu Shrine was located about 4 kilometers from the center of town. Already the car had gone past the town limits and was speeding through fields of bare-branched mulberry shrubs. Acres of rice paddies extended beyond the fields. But with the harvest over and the water drained, they were a sorry sight. Black stubble sticking out of the mud. Still further beyond the rice paddies, one could glimpse the lake, its waters glistening like a mirror. Biting cold gusts blew from its direction. Winter was quick to come to the Shinshu region. The peak of Mount Fuji, soaring in the distance above the mulberry fields, was already white with snow. The car soon pulled up in front of the large, plain wood gate of the shrine. Nasu Shrine had a long and distinguished history. Towering cedar trees loomed over its extensive grounds, and deep-colored moss covered its rows of stone lanterns. As Kindaichi proceeded up the path of pebbles that crunched under his feet, he felt the bracing tension of the atmosphere overtaking him. Take frowned as sourly as usual. Tomo's eyes still darted in all directions, but no one said a word. They soon reached the shrine office. "Hello, I heard the car, so I thought it might be you." A middle-aged man wearing a white kimono and a pair of pale yellow hakama trousers came out of the office. With his short hair and wire-rimmed glasses, he looked unremarkable. But as Kindaichi soon learned, this was Taisuke Oyama, the priest of Nasu Shrine. The priest led them deep into the building to an aseptical, clean 8-mat tatami room. In the middle of it was a brazier filled with a warming fire. The garden outside was filled with magnificent chrysanthemum blooms, which scented the air with a faint fragrance. As soon as they had seated themselves and exchanged greetings, Tomo impatiently leaned forward and said, "Mr. Oyama, I don't mean to rush you, but could you show us what we came to see?" The priest, looking uncertain, glanced toward Kindaichi. "And this gentleman is?" "Oh, you don't need to worry about Mr. Kindaichi," Furodate interjected. "This is Mr. Kosuke Kindaichi, and he has been helping us in regard to the current matter. Now, since the two gentlemen are quite eager, could you please?" "Yes, of course. Please wait here for a moment." The priest left the room, but soon returned, reverently holding a small, plain wood offering stand on which lay 3 hand scrolls with gold brocade covers. The priest placed the stand before the assembled group and took up the scrolls one by one. "This is Mr. Take's scroll, and this is yours, Mr. Tomo." "We don't care about our own scrolls. Show us Kiyo's," Tomo urged irritably. "This is Mr. Kiyo's scroll. Please have a look." In sullen silence, Take took the scroll from the priest, unrolled it, and studied it, then quickly passed it to Tomo. It was a scroll about 40 centimeters wide and 60 centimeters long, and as he took it from Take, Tomo's hands quivered with excitement. "Take, you're certain this is Kiyo's scroll, right?" said Tomo to his cousin. "Absolutely. The handwriting at the top is grandfather's, and without a doubt this is Kiyo's signature." "Good. Have a look, Mr. Furodate." As Tomo passed the scroll to the lawyer, Kindaichi, who was sitting next to him, was able to discern its contents for the first time. What he saw left him thunderstruck. Pressed on the white silk of the scroll was a right handprint. Above it, in artistic brushstrokes, was written, "Success in Battle," while along the left side, in another hand, were the words, "July 6, 1943, Kiyo Inugami, age 23, male, born in the year of the rooster." The handprint belonged to Kiyo, the man who had lost his face. For the first time, Kindaichi understood why they had come to the shrine, and he felt his heart racing with excitement. "Mr. Kindaichi, I want you to have a good look at this too." Furodate pushed the scroll toward Kindaichi. "Yes, I saw it just now, but what do you intend to do with it?" "Isn't it obvious?" said Tomo. "We're going to see if that masked man who returned the other day really is Kiyo or not? No two people have the same fingerprints, and a person's fingerprints are the same for life. Even you must know that. Kindaichi watched Tomo speak, observing his animal-like cruelty, like that of a beast that had spotted its prey and was licking its chops in anticipation. Kindaichi felt his forehead grow clammy with a cold sweat. I see, but why does the shrine possess this handprint? In this part of the country, Mr. Kindaichi, Furudate took over and explained. It's a custom for anyone going off to war to come to this shrine and to offer a votive tablet stamped with his handprint as a prayer for success in battle. Mr. Take and Mr. Tomo here, as well as Mr. Kiyo, did likewise. But since they're so closely connected with Nasu Shrine, they dedicated these scrolls instead of tablets. They were stored deep inside the shrine and we had completely forgotten about them. But Mr. Oyama here remembered and was kind enough to let Mr. Take and Mr. Tomo know in case it should be of some use. Mr. Oyama told them? Noticing how Kindaichi cast a sharp glance in his direction, the priest became flustered. Yes, well, actually, since there's been some gossip about Mr. Kiyo after his return, I thought if things could be made certain, it would be better. So, all of you suspect that man might not be the real Kiyo? Of course! How can we trust a man with his face torn apart like that? Said Tomo. But his mother, Mrs. Matsuko, declared absolutely. Mr. Kindaichi, you don't know my aunt. If Kiyo was dead, that woman wouldn't hesitate to find a stand-in. She doesn't want Take or me to have the Inugami fortune. To prevent that, she'd do anything, even swear that an impostor is her real son. Kindaichi felt a shiver crawl up his spine. All right, Mr. Furudate. I want you to sign your name beside his handprint. Mr. Kindaichi, if you would too. We're going to take this back. Get that masked man's handprint and then compare the two, so we don't want anyone to say we've done anything fraudulent. Please, sign here as witnesses. But what if Kiyo refuses to give you his handprint? Oh, he won't refuse. Take stirred and spoke out at last. If he does, I'll get it by force. His voice was no longer human, but the growl of a beast with blood dripping from its fangs. Evil Tidings. November 16. That morning, Kindaichi had overslept as never before, and although it was past 10 o'clock, he was still cuddled between the sheets of his futon. He had overslept because he had been up so late the night before. The previous day, having obtained Kiyo's handprint at Nasu Shrine, Take and Tomo had blustered that they would return to the villa, get a handprint from the man in the strange mask, and ascertain his identity once and for all. They had asked Kindaichi to be present as a witness, but he had refused. If some incident requiring his professional services had already occurred to a member of the Inugami family, he would have felt differently. But at this point he did not want to risk earning the distrust of anyone, no matter whom, by sticking his nose into their private affairs. Fine. It's all right. We have Mr. Furudate. The hulking Take yielded immediately. Tomo the fox, however, insisted. But should the authenticity of this scroll be called into question, you will testify that we retrieved it from Nasu Shrine, won't you? Of course, So long as my signature is there where I placed it, I will stand by it. By the way, Mr. Furudate. Yes? As I just said, I feel it wouldn't be proper for me to be present as witness at this event. But I would like to know as soon as possible what happens. Could you let me know the results? Whether that man in the strange mask is indeed Kiyo or not, as soon as you can? Certainly. I'll stop by your inn on my way back. After dropping Kindaichi off at his lodgings, the car headed straight to the Inugami estate. It was about 10 in the evening when Furudate, true to his word, came to Kindaichi's room. The instant Kindaichi saw the lawyer's face, he asked, "What happened?" He was taken aback by Furudate's dark, stern expression. Furudate shook his head slightly and spat out, "No good." "What? What do you mean?" "Matsuko wouldn't let Kiyo give us his handprint. She refused." "Yes, absolutely. She wouldn't listen to Take or Tomo at all. I'm sure she's not going to change her mind. Not for a while anyway. The only way we could get a new handprint from Kiyo now would be by force, like Take said. But I don't think anyone is willing to go that far. So we weren't able to learn anything definite at all." Kindaichi had a heavy feeling in the pit of his stomach. But, he licked his parched lips. But that would make Take and Tomo even more suspicious. Exactly. That's why I tried to persuade Matsuko till I was blue in the face. But she's not the type to listen to anyone. On the contrary, she grew infuriated with me and made all sorts of nasty remarks. She's a stubborn woman, and once she sets her mind on something, she won't be easily persuaded to change it. Furudate sighed a deep, dark sigh. Then, as if spitting out something distasteful, he began to relate to Kindaichi the events of the evening. Listening to the lawyer's account, Kindaichi was able to paint the scene vividly in his mind. It was the same 12-mat room where the will had been read. The members of the Inugami Clan were assembled in front of Sahei's photograph on the plain wood altar. Kiyo with his sinister rubber mask, Matsuko, and facing them in a circle, Take, Tomo, their parents, and Take's sister. Also part of the circle were Tamayo and Furudate. The scroll that had just been retrieved from Nasu's shrine had been placed in front of Kiyo, along with a blank sheet of paper, an inkstone with red ink and a brush. Kiyo's mask prevented anyone from seeing his expression, but the fine trembling of his shoulders revealed his profound agitation. The eyes of the family members that were turned toward the mask faced. The eyes of the family members that were turned toward the masked face were full of suspicion and hatred. "So, Aunt Matsuko, are you saying that you absolutely refuse to let Kiyo give us his handprint?" After a long, dangerous silence, Take spoke as if upbraiding her. His voice was that of a beast with blood dribbling from its fangs. "Absolutely," Matsuko answered in a suppressed manner. Then, with blazing eyes, she looked around at the others in the room. "This is outrageous! Even if his face has changed, there is no doubt this is Kiyo. I guarantee it. I'm his mother, and I should know. What better proof is there? And you go and listen to those ridiculous rumors. No, I refuse to allow it. I won't have it." "But Matsuko," Take's mother Takeko interjected from nearby. It was a calm, quiet voice, but one that reverberated with ample malice. "That's all the more reason for Kiyo to give us his handprint. No, I'm not saying I have doubts about his identity, but it's so hard to keep people from gossiping. So to stop these silly rumors too, I think it best if Kiyo simply give us his handprint. Umeko, what do you think? Oh yes, I agree with Takeko. If you and Kiyo refuse now, I think people would become even more suspicious. Isn't that right, everybody? Of course that's right, Takeko's husband Toranosuke chimed in. And not just the people outside. If you and Kiyo continue to refuse this now, we would be tempted to get suspicious too. Kokichi, how about you? Yes, that's true, Umeko's husband Kokichi stammered as if intimidated. We certainly don't want to doubt a member of the family, but if Matsuko and Kiyo insist on saying no, we have to believe you have something to hide. Takeko drove in the point with a venomous sneer. Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! At that moment, Matsuko shrieked, her voice quivering with rage. Do you realize what you're saying? At least for now, Kiyo is the head of the Inugami Clan. If father hadn't written such a ridiculous will, all the Inugami fame and fortune would be Kiyo's alone. He's the head of the clan. In the old days, he'd have been your lord and master. And you, Take and Tomo, you'd have been just like vassals. Yet you, how dare you tell him you want his handprint, his fingerprints, like some sort of common criminal? No, there's no way I'll allow my son to do such a disgusting thing. No, never. Kiyo, come on, we don't need to stay here. Matsuko stood up indignantly. Take's expression changed to one of fury. Aunt Matsuko, then do you refuse? Absolutely. Come, Kiyo. The masked Kiyo stood up falteringly. Matsuko took his hand. Then, Aunt Matsuko, we... Grinding his teeth, Take shot a vicious remark at the backs of Matsuko and Kiyo as they were leaving the room. We can no longer recognize that man as Kiyo. Do as you like. Leading the masked man by the hand, Matsuko stomped out the sliding door. Having heard Furudate's account, Kindaichi began vigorously scratching his head this way and that. A tense situation. Indeed, Furudate answered gloomily. I have to wonder why Matsuko refuses so obstinately. It's true, Take could have broached the subject more tactfully. He did treat Kiyo like a criminal from the start. Matsuko, proud as she is, became incensed, and since she's the type that once she gets her back up is hopelessly stubborn, I guess she couldn't help herself. But the issue being what it is. If that's the real Kiyo, and of course I believe it is, it would have been much better if she had just been a good sport and let them have what they wanted. In other words, we can interpret Matsuko's reaction tonight in one of two ways. Either Take's and Tomo's attitude offended her and made her stubborn, or, as Take and Tomo suspect, that masked man is in fact not Kiyo, and what's more, Matsuko knows it. Furudate nodded with a dark look in his eyes. Of course, I choose the first interpretation. But unless Matsuko gives in and lets us take Kiyo's handprint, I can't erase that second interpretation. That horrible suspicion from my mind, no matter how distasteful the thought. Furudate stayed until near midnight talking. Soon after he left, Kindaichi lay down on his futon, but even after he had turned off the lights, his eyes refused to close for a long time. The surreal figure of the man in the rubber mask and the right hand print pressed on the silk scroll kept floating before him in the darkness, tormenting him until late into the night. Suddenly, the phone he had placed beside his pillow started ringing loudly, and Kindaichi awoke with a start. Still lying prone between the sheets, he drew the telephone toward him and put the receiver to his ear. It was the manager at the front desk. "Room number 17, Mr. Kosuke Kindaichi. Telephone call from Mr. Furudate." "Yes, please, put him through." Immediately he heard Furudate's voice on the other end. "Hello, Mr. Kindaichi? Sorry to wake you, but I need you to come quickly, very quickly, immediately." Furudate's voice sounded unusually high-pitched and shaky. Kindaichi's heart skipped a beat. Come where? The Inugami's villa. I'll send a car for you. Please come right away." "All right, I understand. Mr. Furudate, has something happened?" "Yes, something has happened. Something terrible has happened. Wakabayashi's prediction has come true, and in a very peculiar way. Anyhow, please come immediately. You'll understand everything when you get here. I'll see you soon." A loud click from the receiver. Click! The sound of Furudate hanging up hurriedly. Kindaichi sprang up from his futon and opened one of the shutters to peek outside. It was dark and overcast, as if a grey veil had descended upon the world, and a cold rain beat mournfully on the waters of the lake.